Have you ever felt that sudden drop in your stomach when she looks at you with those uncertain eyes and says, "I'm just confused"? That moment when everything freezes, and you're suddenly scrambling to figure out what went wrong. You're not alone, and you're being played. What you're experiencing isn't her genuine emotional uncertainty. It's one of the most powerful psychological weapons in the female arsenal. A strategy so effective that even Machiavelli himself would applaud its brilliant execution. Today, you're going to understand something that 99% of men never realize. When a woman tells you she's confused about her feelings, the relationship, or the situation, she's executing a calculated power move designed to flip the emotional dynamics completely in her favor. This isn't about demonizing women. It's about recognizing the sophisticated psychological chess that's being played while you're still setting up the checkers board. The pain you feel, that anxiety, that desperate need to clarify and fix, that's exactly what this strategy is designed to create. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand exactly what's happening when she deploys the "I'm confused" tactic, but you'll also possess the counter strategies that can protect your emotional sovereignty and rebalance the power dynamics instantly. Think of relationships as small kingdoms, where emotional power is the true currency. Machiavelli understood that in any power dynamic, appearing vulnerable while actually seizing control is the ultimate strategy. When she says "I'm confused," she's not confessing weakness. She's declaring a sophisticated form of psychological warfare. You see, in the realm of interpersonal relationships, certainty equals commitment, and commitment means reduced options. By introducing confusion, she achieves something remarkable. She maintains all her options while forcing you to work harder for clarity. Let me break down exactly how this strategy unfolds in real time. Phase 1. The destabilization effect. When you hear those words, "I'm confused," your entire emotional state transforms instantly. One moment, you believed you understood where things stood. The next, while you're thrown into an emotional tailspin. This is precisely the intended effect. By destabilizing your emotional foundation, she creates an immediate power shift. You were in your center, confident and secure. Now, you're scrambling, uncertain, and most importantly, focused entirely on solving her emotional state rather than maintaining your own. Think about it. When was the last time she said she was confused? Did you immediately start questioning yourself? Did you begin mentally reviewing everything you said or did? Did you instantly shift into problem-solving mode, trying to figure out how to make her unconfused? That's exactly what this strategy counts on. The moment you begin this internal process, you've surrendered your emotional leadership position and become her emotional problem solver, a fundamentally weaker position in the relationship power dynamic. Phase 2, the responsibility reversal. Once she's destabilized your emotional state with her confusion, something even more powerful happens, a complete reversal of emotional responsibility. Before her statement, the relationship existed in a relatively balanced state where both parties carried their own emotional weight. But the moment confusion enters, you instinctively assume responsibility for resolving it. This is the genius of the strategy. It transfers the entire emotional burden of the relationship onto your shoulders. You can feel it happening. Suddenly, you are responsible for clarifying her feelings, providing more security, proving your worth, alleviating her doubts, maintaining the relationship's momentum. Meanwhile, she's been completely absolved of any responsibility. Her only job now is to evaluate your performance as you scramble to resolve her confusion. She becomes the judge, while you become the supplicant, desperately trying to win back her certainty. Phase 3. The time manipulation. Machiavelli understood that controlling time is as powerful as controlling armies. When she says she's confused, she instantly gains the most valuable resource in any relationship negotiation: time without consequences. Think about what happens next. She now has an undefined period, days, weeks, sometimes even months, during which she can 1. Explore other options without technically betraying you. After all, she's confused. 2. Test your devotion by measuring how long you'll endure the uncertainty. 3. Observe how you handle emotional pressure, revealing your deeper character. 4. Create emotional scarcity that increases her value in your eyes. 5. Gain perspective on the relationship without risking its immediate termination. Meanwhile, you're suspended in emotional limbo, investing more and more of yourself, becoming increasingly committed while she remains uncommitted. The longer this phase continues, the more the power imbalance grows in her favor. You've likely experienced this before. Remember how time seemed to stretch endlessly during these confused periods? How each day felt like psychological torture as you waited for clarity? How you found yourself becoming more invested, more determined to win her certainty back, while she seemed increasingly distant and evaluative? That's not coincidence, that's strategy. Phase 4. The options expansion. While you're focused entirely on resolving her confusion, something else is happening beneath the surface. Her statement of confusion doesn't reduce her options, it multiplies them. By declaring confusion, she creates a situation where almost any outcome remains possible. If she decides she wants to continue the relationship, her confusion was simply a phase she needed to work through, with your patient help, of course. If she decides to end things, her confusion was her realization process, and you can't blame someone for their genuine feelings. If she's been exploring connection with someone else, her confusion provides perfect cover. She was sorting through her feelings. If you eventually get frustrated and leave, she can claim you couldn't handle her process or weren't patient enough. This is the strategic brilliance of claimed confusion. It's a position from which any move remains available, while none can be criticized. It's the relationship equivalent of maintaining the high ground in battle. Think of the last time you heard, "I'm confused." Did you later discover there were other factors at play? Perhaps another person in the picture? Or major decisions she was considering that had nothing to do with your behavior? Yet you spent all that time assuming her confusion was about you and your performance in the relationship. Phase 5. The testing mechanism. Perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of the "I'm confused" strategy is how effectively it functions as a test of your value, resilience, and emotional strength. When she introduces confusion into the relationship, she creates the perfect environment to observe. 1. How desperately you pursue certainty, revealing your abundance or scarcity mindset. 2. How emotionally affected you become, showing your emotional strength or weakness. 3. How much effort you'll expend to resolve her uncertainty, demonstrating your perceived value of her. 4. Whether you have the confidence to walk away, indicating your self-worth and options. 5. If you understand subtle power dynamics, revealing your social intelligence. This testing mechanism serves a dual purpose. It both gives her valuable information about your character, while simultaneously training you to work harder for her emotional investment. You've felt this testing process, haven't you? The way her eyes seem to evaluate your responses when you try to address her confusion. The way she notices whether you become emotionally reactive or maintain composure. The subtle shifts in her respect level based on how you handle the uncertainty she's introduced. Now we arrive at the strategic masterstroke, the moment when the "I'm confused" strategy achieves its full potential. This is the point where the complete inversion of relationship power occurs, often without the man ever realizing it has happened. The culmination of this strategy isn't just about creating uncertainty or testing your response. Its ultimate achievement is making you internalize her doubt as your personal failure. When this psychological inversion fully takes hold, something profound happens in your mind. You begin to believe that her confusion is a direct reflection of your inadequacy. You must work harder, give more, and prove yourself worthy of her certainty. Her emotional state is entirely your responsibility to manage and fix. You should be grateful for any clarity she provides, seeing it as a gift rather than a basic relationship courtesy. The relationship's success depends entirely on your ability to resolve her emotional uncertainties. This inversion represents the complete transfer of relationship power. She now occupies the throne of emotional authority, while you have become the supplicant, desperately seeking her approval and certainty. The most devastating aspect is that you don't just accept this new power dynamic, you enforce it upon yourself. You become the prison guard of your own emotional subjugation. You've felt this exact moment, haven't you? That crushing weight in your chest when you realize you'd do anything, sacrifice your time, your dignity, your self-respect, just to make her unconfused. The moment you found yourself thinking, if only I could do more, be more, show her more, then she wouldn't be confused anymore. The moment you accepted that her uncertainty was your failure rather than her strategy. But let's go deeper into what's really happening in this critical phase. When a woman deploys the "I'm confused" in strategy and it reaches this climactic stage, she achieves something remarkable. She creates a situation where you are simultaneously the problem and the solution in her narrative. This dual positioning is psychological genius. By positioning you as the source of her confusion, she ensures you feel responsible. But by hinting that you could also be the resolution to her confusion, if only you were different, better, more attentive, she keeps you engaged in an endless cycle of trying to prove yourself worthy. This creates a psychological dependence more powerful than any direct control could ever achieve. You become addicted to the rare moments of clarity she provides, those brief instances when she seems unconfused about her feelings for you. These moments become your emotional high, the validation you desperately seek, only to be withdrawn when she decides to reintroduce confusion into the equation. What's happening neurochemically is fascinating. The intermittent reinforcement of her occasional certainty, followed by the withdrawal of that certainty, creates a dopamine-seeking behavior pattern identical to addiction. You're literally being neurologically programmed to seek her approval and clarity at any cost. This is when the most damaging phase begins. You start preemptively adjusting your behavior, walking on eggshells, constantly monitoring her emotional state for signs of confusion. You begin censoring yourself, hiding aspects of your personality that might confuse her. You transform into someone entirely focused on maintaining her emotional clarity, at the complete expense of your own authentic expression. And here's where the true Machiavellian brilliance emerges. Once this dynamic is established, she rarely needs to explicitly state she's confused anymore. Just the subtle hint of uncertainty, a distant look, a delayed response, a slight emotional withdrawal, is enough to activate your entire internal machinery of self-doubt and compensation. You've become conditioned to respond to the merest suggestion of her confusion with immediate self-correction. The power transfer is now so complete that she can control the relationship dynamic with the most minimal emotional inputs, while you generate maximum emotional outputs in response. This is the psychological equivalent of an investment that pays dividends indefinitely. Her small investment of claimed confusion now yields continuous returns of your attention, effort, validation, and emotional labor. And like any good Machiavellian strategy, it operates most effectively when its target doesn't even recognize it's happening. Look back at your past relationships. Can you identify the exact moment when this power inversion occurred? That pivotal point when you shifted from being a man with standards who evaluated her fit in your life, to a man desperately trying to prove his worth to resolve her confusion. In that moment, the throne changed hands. In that moment, Machiavelli's ghost nodded in appreciation of strategy perfectly executed. But here's what's truly remarkable. Once you understand this dynamic, you can never be manipulated by it again. The strategy's power relies entirely on your ignorance of its mechanics. And now that veil has been lifted forever. That's when the power inversion is complete. That's when Machiavelli would smile in recognition of a flawlessly executed strategy. But here's what's truly remarkable. Once you understand this dynamic, you can never be manipulated by it again. And that's precisely what we're going to address next. Now that you've seen behind the curtain of the "I'm confused" strategy, you possess something that few men ever acquire: immunity to one of the most powerful psychological weapons in relationship dynamics. The truth is, genuine emotional confusion exists, but it rarely announces itself so explicitly. When someone is truly confused, they typically work through that confusion internally, only expressing it when they've reached some clarity about their uncertainty. Strategic confusion, on the other hand, is deployed as a tool precisely because of the power dynamics it creates. Understanding this distinction changes everything. So, what do you do the next time you hear those words? First, recognize the strategy for what it is, not a confession of emotional vulnerability, but a sophisticated power move. This recognition alone will prevent the automatic destabilization that typically occurs. Second, maintain your emotional sovereignty. Her confusion is her responsibility to resolve, not yours. The moment you take ownership of her emotional state, you've surrendered your power. Third, create your own strategic ambiguity. Machiavelli understood that power abhors a vacuum. When you withdraw your emotional investment in response to her confusion, you create a counterbalance that often resolves the situation faster than any amount of pursuit or clarification ever could. Finally, be willing to walk away from strategic confusion. The ultimate power in any negotiation belongs to the person who can walk away with the least damage, and relationships are negotiations at their core. When you demonstrate that her confusion doesn't destabilize you, the strategy loses its effectiveness entirely. Remember, in the realm of emotional power dynamics, the one who cares least holds the most power. This doesn't mean you shouldn't care about your relationships. It means you shouldn't care more about her clarity than she does. Have you experienced this strategy before? Did you recognize it for what it was? Or did you fall into the trap of trying to resolve her confusion? Or comment below with your experiences. I want to hear how this dynamic has played out in your relationships. If this video opened your eyes to relationship dynamics you've experienced but couldn't quite identify, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights that nobody else is willing to tell you. Check out my previous videos on female psychological strategies. The patterns will start to become clear in ways that will transform your relationships forever. Remember, understanding these dynamics isn't about creating conflict. It's about establishing balance. True connection can only exist between equals, never between the manipulator and the manipulated. Until next time, maintain your throne.